Welcome to Hello English Teacher. Today let's look at the third part of the line by line explanation of the chapter Ivan Streisand O Level from class 12 English. If you are watching my video for the first time, please subscribe. You can listen to the explanations of chapters from classes 10, 11 and 12 English. And don't forget to press the bell icon so that you get notified whenever I upload a video. Let's move on to the video now. So, we saw how the governor got a call at 9:40 a.m. from the Board of Examinations, and he said that he would connect it to Mr. Jackson, who was there with Evans in the cell. And then he had a doubt whether it was a hoax or whether it was some kind of a signal to help the prisoner escape. But then he connected. So, now let's move on to the lesson. He dialed the number of the examinations board, but heard only the staccato bleeps of a line engaged. So, in order to see whether it was a real call or a hoax call, he once again dialed to the examinations board. But then what he could get was only the staccato bleeps, that means the loud pitched noises made by electronic devices saying that it was engaged. But then the line was engaged, wasn't it? Yes. So, not very intelligent that 2 minutes later he heard some whispered communications in the cell, and then McLeary's broad Scots voice. So, he could understand that the line was engaged and he knew that some communication was happening. And then within 2 minutes he heard some noises in the cell, that means people there inside were talking, and he could clearly hear the voice of McLeary. Who is McLeary? He was the invigilator and he was talking in his Scottish accent. Will you please stop writing a wee while, Mr. Evans, and listen carefully? So, he told Evans to stop for a while because he wanted to pass on some information. So, he asked Evans to stop for a while and listen to him. So, this was a conversation that the governor heard from his room. So, McLeary spoke. He said, candidates offering German 021-1 should note the following correction. So, there was some correction in the question paper for the German paper. On page 3, line 15, the fourth word should read goldenen, not goldin, and the whole phrase will therefore read zum goldenen Leven, not zum goldin Leven. So, there was a correction on page 3, line 15, and the fourth word had to be corrected. And so, he read out the corrections and asked Evans to make the correction. I will repeat that. So, the governor listened and smiled. He had taken German in the sixth form himself, and he remembered all about the agreements of adjectives. So, the governor listened to this conversation and he understood that it was some correction that was being made in the question paper, and he smiled because he knew a little bit of German, because he himself had studied German in the sixth form, and then he also knew the rules of the grammar, that is agreements of the adjectives. So, he just smiled to himself after listening to this conversation. And so did McLeary. By the sound of things, for the minister's pronunciation was most impressive. So, the pronunciation that the minister here is the invigilator, that is McLeary. So, he was so impressed by his pronunciation. But what about Evans? He probably didn't know what an adjective was. So, the governor was thinking about Evans because he was the one who was writing the German examination, and he wondered whether this man knew what an adjective was, that is in German. The phone rang again, the magistrate's court. They needed a prison van and a couple of prison officers. So, the governor once again received a phone call. It was from the magistrate's court because they wanted a prison van and also some officers, and it was for a remand case. So, they wanted to remand some culprit or somebody. So, they wanted a van with some prison officers. And within 2 minutes the governor was wondering whether that could be a hoax. He told himself not to be so silly. So, again when he got the second call, again he thought whether that was also a hoax. First time when he got a call from the board of exams for the correction, he wondered whether it was a hoax. Now, second time when he got a call from the magistrate's court asking for a prison van, that time also he was just wondering whether it was a hoax, whether it was some kind of a trick. But then he told himself not to be so silly, because everything cannot be taking place, so that some cheating would take place. So he told him not to be silly. His imagination was beginning to run riot. That means he had different kinds of imaginations, wild imaginations, whether all these are some kind of a hoax made by Evans and his people so that he could escape from the prison. Evans, for the first quarter of an hour, Stephens had dutifully peered through the peephole at intervals of 1 minute or so. So Evans continued to write his exam and Stephens was standing outside, and for each minute he used to peep through the peephole and make sure that nothing happens. So he had continued to write his exam, and after that every 2 minutes. So for the first quarter, for every 1 minute he peeped in, but after the first quarter he started peering in only after every 2 minutes. At 10:45 am, everything was still all right as he looked through the peephole once more. It took 4 or 5 seconds, no more. So after some more time, he just kept peeping inside from at 10:45 am and he found everything normal. So it took 4 or 5 seconds, no more. So it just took 4 or 5 seconds for him to peep inside and make sure that nothing wrong is happening inside. What was the point? It was always more or less the same. So what was the point in peeping inside every minute? Because every time he found the same thing. What was that? Evans, his pen between his lips, sat staring straight in front of him towards the door, seeking, it seemed, some sorely needed inspiration from somewhere. So while peeping, what is that he always saw? He saw that Evans was seated inside and the pen was between his lips, and he was peering at something, looking just straight and as if he was waiting for some kind of inspiration. So this is the sight he could see every time Stephens peeped into the peephole, through the peephole. And opposite him, McCleary, seated slightly askew from the table now, his face in semi-profile, his hair, as Stephens had noticed earlier, amateurishly clipped pretty close to the scalp. And he could see that McCleary was not sitting straight, he was askew. Askew means not in a straight position, and his hair was amateurishly clipped. That means not in a professional manner, it was just clipped in a haphazard way. It was very close to his scalp. So that was how his hair was done. His eyes behind the pebble lenses, peering short-sightedly at the church times. So he could see that McCleary was peering through pebble lenses, means thick glasses, that he was looking at the paper, the church times, and his right index finger hooked beneath the narrow clerical collar. So his hand, one hand, the index finger was there just between his collar, clerical collar, that is the dress that he wore, on the collar, and the fingers of the left hand, the nails meticulously manicured, slowly stroking the black short beard. So one hand was on the collar and one hand was on stroking his beard. At 10:50 am, the receiver crackled to life and the governor realized he had almost forgotten Evans for a few minutes. So at 10:55, what happened? One more call came in, and at this moment the governor just realized that he forgot all about Evans. So as he just realized, he heard some whisper from the room, because the microphone was already kept in the room, so he could hear whatever conversation was there. And then he heard this conversation. Evans, please sir, a whisper. Evans, please sir. So Evans was requesting something to the invigilator. He kept saying, please sir. Evans, would you mind if I put a blanket round my shoulders, sir? So he wanted to cover himself with a blanket. It's a bit parky in here, isn't it? So he's saying it's a bit parky. Parky means it's a slang term which means it is quite chill. So he felt it was very cold and he wanted to cover himself with a blanket. Silence. Evans, there's one on me bunk here, sir. So he was telling McCleary that there was one blanket on his bunk and whether he could use it. So he was asking the permission. Be quick about it. And so McCleary said, yes, take it quickly, he said. Silence. At 10:51 am, Stephens was more than a little surprised to see a grey regulation blanket draped around Ivan's shoulders. So next time, that is at 10:51 am, when Stephens peeped inside, he was surprised to see something. What was that? Because he saw that the examinee, that is Evans, had covered himself with this grey regulation blanket. What is regulation blanket? It can regulate the temperature or keep him warm. So, he had covered himself with a blanket, and he frowned slightly and looked at the examinee more closely. So, he wanted to know if everything was all right, and so he just looked once again very closely to see if it was Evans. But Evans, the pen still between his teeth, was staring just as vacantly as before. But he could see that Evans was the same, only the blanket was around him, but he still had the pen in his mouth. Blankly beneath a blanket stood Stephens report the slight irregularity. So, Stephens was wondering whether he should report this, that this is not the usual thing, he had to sit and write, but he had seen him with a blanket. So, he was wondering whether he should report this. Anything at all fishy, hadn't Jackson said? So, he also remembered Jackson's orders that if you find anything fishy, you have to report. So, he was wondering whether he should report this. He looked through the peephole once again, and even as he did so, Evans pulled the dirty blanket more closely to himself. So, once again he looked inside to make sure that everything was all right, and he found that Evans was pulling the blanket closer to him to keep him warm. Was he planning a sudden Batman leap to suffocate McCleary in the blanket? So, Stephens began to wonder whether he would jump like a Batman and suffocate McCleary with the blanket so that he could escape. Don't be daft. So, he said to himself not to be stupid. Daft means stupid or foolish. So, there was never any sun on this side of the prison, no heating either during the summer months, and it could be quite chilly in some of the cells. And so, he was trying to console himself by saying that this part of the prison is really cold because there is no sunlight, and so it could be really cold, and that is why Evans was using the blanket. Stephens decided to revert to his earlier every minute observation. So, what he decided? He decided that every minute let me look into the room so that I can ensure that everything is all right. Earlier he had done it like this, but then later he shifted to looking into it every 2 minutes and then 3-4 minutes. But now again he reverted to his original posture, like looking into the room every minute. At 11:20 a.m. the receiver once more crackled across the silence of the governor's office, and so he was continuing to write, and then at 11:20 a.m. the phone bell rang in the governor's office. McCleary informed Evans that only 5 minutes remained. So, only 5 minutes was left for the exam to get completed. The examinations was almost over now, but something still gnawed away quietly in the governor's mind. He reached for the phone once more, but then the governor had his own doubts. Something gnawed means something he had was troubling him in his mind. So, he was feeling that something was not all right. So, once again he reached for the phone, that is, he wanted to call and find out. At 11:22 a.m. Jackson shouted along the corridor to Stephens. The governor wanted to speak with him. Hurry, man. So, the governor called the room once again, and he wanted to speak to Stephens. So, Jackson was there, and so he shouted across to Stephens telling him that the governor wanted to speak to him. Stephens picked up the phone apprehensively and listened to the rapidly spoken orders. So, with apprehensively means he was quite afraid what the governor was going to say, and so but still he picked up the phone and listened to what the governor had orders for him. And Stephens himself was to accompany McCleary to the main prison gates. So, that was the order given by the governor, that after the examination was over, Stephens had to accompany McCleary, the invigilator, to the prison gates. Stephens himself was to accompany McCleary to the main prison gates. Understood? So, Stephens personally was to make absolute sure that the door was locked on Evans after McCleary had left the cell. So, the order was also to see properly that after McCleary had come out of the room, the door of Evans should be properly locked so that he does not escape. So, these were the two orders given by the governor to Stephens. One is that he should lock the door properly, and next one is he had to accompany him to the prison gates. Understood? Understood. So, he asked him whether he had understood, and Stephens answered that he had understood the orders. So at 11:25 a.m. the governor heard the final exchanges. McCleary, stop writing please. Silence. McCleary, put your sheets in order and see they are correctly numbered. So at 11:25 a.m. when the examination was over, the governor could hear the conversation between McCleary and Evans. So he was telling him to put the papers in order and to stop writing, etc., and to number the papers, etc. So scrapping of chairs and tables. So he could hear the movements because the examination was over and they might be getting up and moving the chairs, etc. So he could hear all these noises. Evans, thank you very much, sir. McCleary, all right, was it? A, right, was it? Evans, not too bad. So Evans thanked him, and so McCleary is asking him, would you get an A grade? And Evans said, yes, the the examination was not too bad. And so McCleary comes out of the room taking all the papers, etc. McCleary, good, Mr. Stephens, very loud. So the governor heard the door clang for the last time. So the governor was still continuing to listen to the conversation, and he could hear McCleary exclaiming, good, Mr. Stephens, to Mr. Stephens, that he had done a good job. So and he could also hear the door close. The examination was over. How did he get on, do you think? Asked Stephens as he walked beside McCleary to the main gates. So Stephens wanted to know how Evans had performed. Ouch, I can't think he's distinguished himself, I'm afraid. So the invigilator, that is McCleary, he did not have a very excellent opinion on Evans. He said, maybe he has not done in a very good manner. His Scots accent seemed broader than ever, and his long black overcoat reaching almost to his knees fostered the illusion that he had suddenly grown slimmer. So while talking to this invigilator, Stephens could feel that his Scots accent was more than before, and he could also see that the long overcoat that he had worn was almost reaching the knees, and it was making a fostered an illusion, means creating a feel or an appearance as if he had become thinner. Stephens felt pleased that the governor had asked him and not Jackson to see McCleary off the premises, and all in the morning had gone pretty well. So Stephens felt happy that he was able to accompany McCleary to the prison gates, and he was also happy that everything went on well. But something stopped him from making his way directly to the canteen for a belated cup of coffee. But then something was running in his mind. Suddenly something struck him. He wanted to go and have a coffee at the canteen, but then this thought struck him. He wanted to take just one last look at Evans. So before having coffee, he wanted to make sure whether Evans was there in his room and everything was all right. So he decided that he would go and take a look at Evans before having his coffee. It was like a program he had seen on TV about a woman who could never really convince herself that she had locked the front door when she had gone to bed. Often she got up 12, 15, sometimes 20 times to check the bolts. So he remembered about this TV program where this lady would never be able to sleep because she was always in doubt whether she had locked the front door. So she would get up at least 20 times to go and check it. So he felt the same thing because he wanted to check and recheck on Evans. So he entered the D wing and made his way along to Evans' cell and opened the peephole once more. So what he did, he went once again, he went to Evans' room, that is Evans' cell, and then opened the peephole once again through which he could see. Oh no, Christ, no. There, sprawled back in Evans' chair was a man. For a semi-second, Stephens thought it must be Evans. So what happened? When he looked through the peephole, he was shocked because he could see a man sprawl back. Sprawl back means fallen on the ground with arms and legs wide apart. So it was somebody who was sitting in Evans' chair, and then he was wondering whether it was Evans. A grey regulation blanket slipping from his shoulders. So the blanket was just falling from the shoulders of the front of his closely cropped, irregularly tufted hair, awash with fierce red blood which had dripped already through the small black beard. So what happened? The hair, that was closely pinned hair, was there, and there was blood flowing, and it was also flowing through his beard. So the hair was covered with blood, so it was dripping through the beard as well. and was even now spreading horribly over the white clerical collar, and so the blood was spreading through the collar, white clerical collar as well, and down into the black clerical front. So the clerical dress was completely getting wet with the blood. So it seemed to be McCleary the invigilator. So Stephen shouted wildly for Jackson, and the words appeared to penetrate the curtain of blood that veiled McCleary's ears, for the minister's hand fell feebly for a handkerchief from his pocket and held it to his bleeding head, the blood seeping slowly through the white linen. He gave a long low moan and tried to speak. So Stephens was shocked and he just screamed to call Jackson. So this scream was heard by McCleary, who was bleeding inside, and so he took a handkerchief and he tried to wipe away the blood from his ears, and he tried to give a low moan. He was in pain and he was trying to speak. His voice trailed away. By the time Jackson had arrived and dispatched Stephens to ring the police and the ambulance, the handkerchief was a sticky, squelchy wad of cloth. So what happened? By the time the ambulance and all that came, and by the time Jackson arrived there, the handkerchief, everything was soaked with blood. And McCleary slowly raised himself, his face twisted tightly with pain. So McCleary was as if he was in great pain, and his face was also slightly twisted. Do not worry about the ambulance, man. I'm all right. I'm all right. Get the police. I know where he is. And this is McCleary inside, and he was trying to speak. So what was he trying to say? He's saying that I'm all right. I'm all right. And he's telling to call the police, and he's saying that I know where he is. So who is he telling as he? He is saying that Evans has escaped, and he is saying that I know where he has escaped to. He closed his eyes, and another drip of blood splashed like a huge red raindrop on the wooden floor. So blood was still flowing and falling on the floor. His hand felt along the table, found the German question paper and grasped it tightly in his blood stained hand. So what did he do? This injured McCleary, he found the question paper and he quickly took it. His hands were also stained with blood. Get the governor. I know where Evans. So he was trying to speak, and he says, get me to the governor. I want to speak to the governor, and I know where Evans has gone. Almost immediately sirens were sounding. Prison officers barked orders. Puzzled prisoners pushed their way along the corridors. Doors were banged and bolted, and phones were ringing everywhere. So now they had understood that Evans had escaped, and the whole prison was really trying to find out where he had gone, and so they were just trying to close all the doors and corridors so that if he is still inside, he cannot escape, so that he does not escape. So there was a frantic run by every prison officer inside the prison, because the prisoner had escaped. They never wanted him to escape, but then somehow he had planned and he has escaped. And within a minute, McCleary, with Jackson and Stephens supporting him on either side, his face down, streaked with and caked with drying blood, was greeted in the prison yard by the governor, perplexed and grim. So now the injured McCleary was helped by both the officers, that is Jackson and Stephens, and they went and met the governor, who was in the prison yard. And the governor was perplexed. That means he was confused. He didn't know what to do, because he had made so many arrangements, so taken so much of care to see that Evans does not escape, but that thing had happened. Evans has escaped, and he was also grim. Grim means he was looking very serious. We must get you to the hospital immediately. You called the police? Yes. So they wanted to get McCleary to the hospital because he was injured very badly, and he is asking if they have called the police, and they say yes. I hope you liked today's video. For more informative videos, subscribe to Hello English Teacher. Like, share and give your valuable comments below. Let's look at the next part of this lesson in the next video. Thank you for watching.